Thank you for listening to another episode of the Business of Fun podcast. I am your host, Dave Wakeman. My guest today, Matt Wolff from Ticket Time Machine. Before I talk to you about my conversation with Matt, though, let me remind you to check out my website. It's www.davewakeman.com. And to get the Talking Tickets newsletter at talkingtickets.substack.com or in the little Dropbox at davewakeman.com. Keep up on the podcast, ideas from the 2025 Talking Tickets survey, global survey. So check it out, www.davewakeman.com or talkingtickets.substack.com. Okay, so my conversation with Matt Wolff. Matt was on a while back. We were talking about Ticket Time Machine. I figured it was a good time to catch up with Matt. I've known Matt for years. He's a good dude. So I wanted to have him on to talk about the state of paper stock tickets. So we talked about what's new in the fan experience, especially as it relates to tickets and the physical tickets. We talk about pays to wait. We talk about the fan experience. We talk about data. Matt has this idea of immeasurable data that I was pretty interested in, and I think you'll find it kind of useful as well. We talked about touch points. We talked about the danger of last-click attribution. We talked about his upcoming, by the time you hear this, will be his recent visit to see Florida versus Duke at Cameron Indoor Stadium. We got into quite a lot. So here's my conversation with Matt Wolff on the Business of Fun. All right, so I want to welcome back my buddy Matt Wolff from Ticket Time Machine to the Business of Fun. Matt, what's up, man?
Hey, just living someone's dream.
Living someone's dream. I'm glad I was able to catch you because you told me about your once-in-a-lifetime trip that's coming up tomorrow. We're recording this on December 1st, and your Florida Gators play the Duke Blue Devils at Cameron Indoor Stadium. So that's very exciting.
At Cameron, ACC, SEC Challenge. Gators are defending national champions. Duke is, as they usually are, one of the best teams. It's just a historic venue. It feels like one of those bucket list things that I'm going to get to check off, and I'm pretty excited about it. And if the Gators can win, even better. You never know. We're struggling a little bit this year, but I'm confident we'll be where we need to be at the end.
No, that's awesome. And what's cool about talking to you today is that you're going to North Carolina tomorrow to see the game. And before we even started recording, we started talking about, just like seeing things through the eyes of the fans. So you are kind of always out there, like going to events and seeing things. You are much more, we'll go to sports, and I'll go to concerts at this point. But it's cool. So like, let me, it's been a little bit of time since we caught up on the podcast here. So give us a little update about where you are with Ticket Time Machine and what's going on.
Yeah, Ticket Time Machine is doing well. We're growing. A lot of the same stuff, just doing commemorative products for events. We do a lot of name badges for conferences and trade shows, and lately have been working with some of the retail arms of professional teams to sell some stuff in the stores at the game. So we did a commemorative ticket for the Utah Hockey Club last year, working on some special stuff for the Spurs this year, and did some stuff for the Big Ten basketball tournament. So, I think the commemorative tickets are getting, bigger now. A lot of the teams are giving them, and I think, you should have an option for the fan to have something to bring home as a keepsake ticket-wise. People like collecting all different types of things. Some collect tickets. Some might collect hockey pucks or baseballs or, jerseys. But there's enough people out there that I think it should be offered, and we're happy to help with that.
Yeah, I was looking. I know I have an All-Star game ticket here somewhere on my desk, but I can't find it now because you were talking about people. I hold. There's crazy stuff that I hold on to. I'm curious though because there have been some big examples of teams like going back and giving out physical tickets again. I think the one that has probably people are most aware of is the Washington Capitals giving physical tickets. what's kind of driving people? What is driving that? Have you seen that happen? You talk about commemorative tickets coming back and being a bigger part of things. There's a whole season ticket, of physical tickets. Are you seeing that as a trend? What's driving these decisions?
I think the first thing driving is the fans getting louder about requesting it, and then the teams are feeling like, hey, we should do right by our fans in this way, and then some look at it as this is another way to make money. It's a revenue generator. So fans are upset that they're charging for it, but I think it's, at least they're offering it to the fans who want it. The Capitals one was interesting because it came way out. I don't think people got these tickets for maybe 6 months after. I mean, it was a long time, definitely after the season. And I'm kind of wondering why would it take that long to get these tickets? And then, they were limiting it to the people who actually had a ticket. So I think there's a couple of things to look at here. In the ticket collecting world, there's a few segments. A segment of people who collect, hey, I went to this game, I want to have a ticket for this game.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's other people who say, hey, look, this is a huge milestone for this ticket. I want to have this ticket because it's worth something. There's some value to it. And that was more when it was literally printed, because those people who think there's value to the actual ticket that was used to be in the game only think it's value if that was the actual ticket. So if you actually if I reprinted it right after the game started, they would think less of that ticket. Me personally, it's a ticket. It looks the same. Nobody would be able to tell. It's a cool memorabilia if I was at the game, but it's also cool just to have. I mean, I was not at the Ohtani 50-50 game, but I bought a ticket off of someone off of eBay. And so, there's a couple reasons why people would want to collect them. There's a couple reasons why people would want to print them and offer them, but it's still, there's got to be a better way. That was not a smooth transaction for the fans, from what I'm hearing on the Washington side. But I'm glad that they're offering it because I think it's cool. And now the next thing we need to do is get them to get everything from Ticket Time Machine.
Well, but wasn't the thing that this year they're going to actually offer them from the start?
There are clubs that will offer you printed tickets from the start. I think there's a sort of a divide. There's teams like the Yankees who don't print a ticket. It doesn't matter. There's 0 tickets out there. And then there's teams that if you go to the box office and you tell them you don't have a phone or your phone's broken or, it's kind of silly because you have to sort of lie to them. And then they're told to lie to you that we can't print tickets as you see someone standing next to you get a printed ticket. So it's like there's so few. There's not enough people for it to be a big deal. If someone comes up and says, hey, I'd like a printed ticket, and you still have some there because you kind of have to, then just print the ticket. Why lie to the fan and say you can't do it?
Right. Well, I guess what I'm curious about too, though, is like, the tech is, I know that the reason that like most of the digital tickets that are produced is due to data. Right. I was struggling. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to ask the question in the right way. Is that as much of a concern as it would have been in the past, or are there technologies around that will allow you to still use that data and still deliver something that's comparable to the e-ticket, but at the same time give people a physical ticket?
Well,
because I think that's what's driving, at least from what I understand, that's kind of like the situation that the Monumental Sports and the Capitals found themselves in, is that they were able to use a little bit more modern technology and still deliver these tickets.
How much are they really losing? I mean, if they're losing 3% or 5% of the stadium to a printed ticket, I mean, statistically, that's not really enough to move anything, is it? Even if they're losing 10%, I'm not that great at math or statistics or know about, but I'm just assuming that's not a huge amount. The margin of error is probably within 2 to 3% anyway. So I don't know that the data is a reason why they don't. I don't know if it's a legitimate reason. It might be the reason they tell you. Certainly, it costs less for them to not produce a printed ticket, although you can argue it's maybe 5-10 cents to print a box office ticket.
Oh, sure. But I'm talking about like more like the advances in the technology, right? Like, aren't there, like little chips like the NFCs, like near field communications, those kind of
Yeah.
things that can act in a similar way to what the digital ticket that, you carry your phone around or whatever operates, because I know the holy grail is like we're going to find, personalized marketing to each and every customer, and
Yeah.
I know that's never going to happen, but aren't there like tools and ways to like kind of bridge that gap between the digital and the physical so
Well,
that
the
it makes
data
it
is the same.
more likely that you can give
The data
a physical
is
tick?
Yeah, the data for them is in the transaction of reselling or giving it to someone else. Whether you sell it or you give it to your friend, you've now passed data along for them to know. Whereas if I have a printed ticket, uh, you know, if I give it to someone, they have no idea who's using that ticket. But again, is it that much? Is the data going to be changed that much by it? I don't think so. And if you give me a printed ticket at the box office and I just scan it, the data is there. So I don't know. Look, I think there's a lot of things in life that people use sort of as a scapegoat on the appearance of wanting it to be something, or as an excuse that doesn't really have a lot of legitimacy to it. I'll give you an example. Like we talk about sustainability, and liquid death in a can, and I go to a concert and they make me pour my liquid death in a can into a 32-ounce plastic cup because they don't want me throwing the can at the artist. So, to me, I think they're saying one thing. It was almost like COVID too. Like everything was COVID and we have to do this, but a lot of that wasn't really true. It was more because they wanted a money grab. So I think that they have enough data. There's ways around that too. There's the Vegas Golden Knights have like a ticket receipt that you can get once you're through the gate. If you scan, it gives you a little printed ticket. I actually have one of those from the first ever Kraken game. When the Kraken played at Vegas, I have a printed ticket receipt, and that's printed inside from someone just standing there. So I think there's ways around whatever reason they're saying they don't want to do it. There's more reasons and compelling arguments for why they should do it, and that includes generating revenue.
Oh, sure. I think the interesting thing to me is the ticket, like a physical ticket, as like a fan experience enhancement, and so that's where a lot of my interest falls in because I've worked with a lot of teams, a lot of organizations. I've done research for the different marketing classes I've taught over the years, and what I find out is that touch points. The touch points start earlier than you imagine, and they go on longer than you
Sure.
think. And the little stuff means a lot more than some of the big stuff. And I think that like something like a physical ticket is a very valuable touch point that is a seemingly a small thing, but it has an opportunity to continue to impact you in a positive way for years and decades into the
Yeah,
future.
and that's
Like
what
my All-Star ticket that was somewhere around this messy desk of mine.
we're looking at exactly what you're saying, and wanting to offer an experience for the fan that could start before the game, but certainly is going to continue after the game, and could be, some sort of digital experience that comes with your keepsake to say, hey, every Friday you can, go back to your ticket and get a new experience, get new information, maybe new offers, new highlights, something different. It's sort of it's sort of the NFT type of experience where
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't doing it right, where they could have had utility, right? It has to mean something to someone to be like, all right, I have this exclusive thing, and now I can get exclusive offers, I can get exclusive content. So we're working with a couple of tech partners right now to enhance that. We have some tech with our tickets that can offer, and but we're looking to get it to be better. And it's hard to I'm surprised that we haven't got as much traction with that. Again, everything that I talk to teams and events, I think these are ripe assets and unique assets to enhance the fan experience, but also to offer to your sponsors who can get engage with the audience after
Yep.
the game, they're talking about during the game. I don't know how much I would want that. You could do it on your phone. I like to be engaged with the game, although I'm probably on my phone more than I should be. But to do it after, so the sponsor, having the opportunity to engage with the fan instead of just being one logo on a sea of a backdrop of 30 logos.
Yeah. It's interesting because I've always or when you talk about like stealing people away from their phones like for games and stuff, I'm always fascinated about the ways that you can do that more. Like the Clippers have set up their entire the Intuit Dome around that idea of like we don't want you to like be looking down at your phone. We want to find ways to engage you in the physical environment. So, but you talked about there are tech opportunities that you're working on. What are some of the things that you can do with tech now?
Well, the NFC technology is tap technology, but you could do it through a QR code. The thing that we're looking at is authenticity. So if you have an NFC and it's on the blockchain, it's a lot less likely to be replicated than if I have a QR code, which anyone can replicate a QR code and sort of do. So, spin the wheel. You've seen the spin the wheel type things. Yeah. We do trivia, predict who's going to win, and then just extend exclusive content. A picture of Ovechkin standing next to you, right? Some augmented reality type things. I think that's the key is what can we gamifying stuff, creating the technology is there. Now we got to figure out what's the best use case for it. And I'm trying to think of when you talk about looking at your phone when you're at an event or anywhere, like what is that adding value to your experience, or is it distracting you from the game or the concert? Like what is it? And I'm trying to think what can enhance the experience of watching the game. Some sports are different. Baseball, there's so much downtime, might have more ability to interact with your phone than say basketball, which is, and hockey, which is back and forth.
Yeah. Probably it's like a little easier to interact with your phone in the stadium for the NFL than it is for the NHL.
And then Wi-Fi is an issue.
And in soccer, there's no chance at all. The thing never stops.
Well, it doesn't, but you still know is like, is a goal going to happen within the next 20 seconds? Can I look at my phone and not miss a goal?
Well, I made that mistake once.
Yeah.
and I missed Harry Kane scoring a goal in London, and I was like, well, this sucks.
And it was a 1-0 game, and that was it.
No, it was a 3-1 game. Son, Dele Alli, and Harry Kane scored, but I missed Harry Kane's goal. So, so I'm a bad example of this.
Well, I went out. I was at the Field of Dreams game, and the lines for merch were so long. But I'm like, I can't come here and not get merch. And when I was waiting online for merch, I missed like 3 home runs. And you just hear the stadium exploding. So I think, they want to find a way to keep you in your seat, but also get you spending money and then interacting with whatever they're doing because that brings them data. But I think data has been overemphasized or misused. I look at it like, I talk about immeasurable data all the time, or you even talk about bad data like the magazine subscription. You could say, yeah, well, we have 35,000 people who subscribe to our magazine, but do you? I mean, I'm on a list for 15 different NFL tickets because I bought them over the year for this trip I take, and I keep getting emails from them. And I'm trying to think, like, what's the downside to them sending emails? And I'm thinking there's probably not a downside if it's just automated. But if you have a physical rep who's actually engaging with me, that's a waste of their time. It might not be a huge waste of their time, but 25%, 35% of your leads might be just garbage because someone ordered 10 years ago, one time because they were town.
And then, the whitelisting and blacklisting of emails. So, like, if your deliverability is not very good and your open rate, you know, because people go, oh, I got 1% open rate. And I was like, well, that's awful. That's just god awful. So, when you talk about immeasurable data, though, what do you mean? Can you define that for me? Because I've never heard you use that before.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just like if I tell you this thing. We're on audio only, but like this thing behind me is it's a sticker mule. It's like a fathead, but got my logo.
Yeah.
It's my Ticket Time Machine logo that's in the background. I got that from Sticker Mule. Sticker Mule is awesome. You should go to Sticker Mule, and I'm not getting paid anything from Sticker Mule, but if you want very cheap shipping, Sticker Mule has allowed you to leverage their shipping because they're shipping thousands and thousands of things. You can go to Sticker Mule and actually leverage their shipping account for great shipping rates. Now, if you go, I don't know, maybe it's a year from now, or you go to Sticker Mule and buy it, they're not going to have any idea, how did you know this? They might ask you, I mean, how many times do you remember exactly what happened, like those surveys that you get? Are you answering? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So to me, people either don't answer it, or they don't answer it honestly, or they don't even remember it.
They don't remember.
So it's like there's so much word of mouth and recommendations that, and you could tell someone else. It's like the algorithm. How did you really find me? Well, Dave liked this post, and I saw that Dave liked it, so I liked it. And then my friend saw that I liked it, and then they came to you. So I forget what conference I was at, but we were talking about, if I'm in how do they calculate who's going to see this thing? So if I'm at let's say I'm at the Wizards game, or are they the Wizards? They're not the Wizards. Yep. Well, they are the Wizards. Yeah. I keep confusing myself. Let's say I'm at the Wizards game, and you'll be like, hey, we're going to flash your thing up on the side on the concourse, right? How many people are going to see it? Well, they know that there's going to be X amount of people. Right. They have no clue, but they know there's going to be X amount of people at any given time here. Now, how many of those people, those are all people who have a chance to see this, but how many people have their back to it? How many people are talking to someone else? How many people are on their phone? Same as if you're in your seat and it's up on the Jumbotron. So those are numbers that they're going to give you, but those don't really mean anything.
Yeah, it's the term or the idea in like marketing circles would be last click attribution, right? So, and what it means is, for anybody who's listening that doesn't understand this, it means that like when you're, let's say you're Google, right? You're saying like, oh my God, like this Google ad is what made you sell your product because somebody clicked on the link from your ad, but they can't tell you how many times the person saw your logo, saw your ad, saw like something about you leading up to that. And so what has happened is it overemphasizes that last click. But like you said, it's like you might not know where that last click came from. You might not know what the buyer's path looked like. And so there's this overemphasis, and this goes back to your data point. It goes back to like, well, what can I measure? And you're saying, oh, because I can measure it, then it must be working. But it leaves a lot of this thing, which you tell me if I'm wrong, this immeasurable data that you're talking about, it leaves out a lot of the touch points, which we talked about before, that you can't necessarily measure, right? So when I teach, go ahead.
But you have to have a baseline of something data. So if I say, well, how many people are going to see that? They have to have some sort of baseline, and maybe it's built in truth and numbers, and then you got to figure out, all right, well, how close can we get to that? Because that's the high amount. They're probably going to tell you what the high amount is. But at the end of the day,
too, this is interesting that you say this, because most of the way that they measure these things, right? So like how many people are going to see it, it's complete garbage. Like the way they do this, like, like a video, it's like, and there was like this absurd way of doing it. It was like, it had to be up for a half a second, and it had to be up on a quarter of a screen. So like, how could you make out what that is? But that counts as a view, right? You see like on Twitter or whatever, you'll see a video has got 8 gazillion views, and it's because somebody has their autoplay on, and it's like they just keep going and going and going. It could be meaningless.
Well, I like to play this game. I go to an event, I'm with whoever's with me, and I say, close your eyes and tell me how many sponsors you can name that have something around the venue. You could do it at halftime. You could do it at the beginning after someone's there for 10 minutes. You could ask them when you walk away. and aside from the ones that are just known because they're known for that,
Yeah.
you're not going to get how many you're going to get, maybe one.
You might get one or two. But that's the thing. If you're measuring for that, that's right. Like what you're talking about is unaided awareness, right?
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because if you that is the gold standard in branding. But the thing is like most of the time, it's like if you frame it right. Well, did you notice any, like, let's say I'm in DC, government contractors? Well, then you all of a sudden you'll say, oh man, I maybe, and shoot, I can't even think of any right now, but they're like, I could see the logo, but I can't think of it. But like you might list two or three, which I am an awful
Well, you might
example.
think you saw that and you might not have, but they're
Correct.
giving you the answer. They're leading you to the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
did you see this or this?
Yeah. Yeah. You might, that might happen a dozen times before the name of that company clicks for you.
But
Right. But that's to me, that I think that's immeasurable data.
yeah,
Right. Like you
it's all over
can't,
the place.
yeah.
But they don't
But if
like
you
to talk
didn't
about
do
it
it,
because
then
you
there were
can't put a
those
dollar
12.
sign on it.
That's
You can't put
exactly
a
right.
dollar sign on it.
There's that nonsense idea that like half of my advertising budget is wasted. I just don't know which half, and it keeps people from doing good brand building. And there's a really great study that came out of the IPA, which is like the Advertising Association in England, and it talked about the long and the short, right? And so all these things that are measured, like last click attribution, all the measurable data that you're talking about. If you don't have some of that immeasurable data supporting you and like carrying you and all these touch points, pretty quickly that stuff stops working. And so
Yeah,
it's like hitting the panic button, right? You just keep
yeah,
hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and it keeps working less and less and less every time, and it gets more and more expensive to achieve your goals. So like this idea of immeasurable data, I'm into it because
yeah.
I, like we
I
were
think
talking about before, it's like what you assume by having all this measurable data is that the conditions are going to be the same in the future for what made that work in the past. And that's really a bad bet.
yeah. And the thing is, there's so many people who have all these great ideas that are outside the box and maybe even taking a chance that don't happen because these people want to stick within the lines of working against the data. So, and data is valuable. It's extremely valuable if it's good. I'd be curious to see how what percentage of people are operating on good data. I think it's not high at all.
I think there is what it seems like to me, and again, I might be wrong, um, is that people think the utility of well, we'll call it like a scientific thing. The half-life of the data is much longer than it really is.
Yeah.
And really what happens is that data has a really finite a moment of utility, especially and I think it probably depends on what product and what area you're in. But like tickets, right? It's like can be really short life cycle, and that people just trust that this data is going to be like permanently useful, or it's going to have a useful for a longer period of time. And most of the time, it's really like a very very short period of time. So then it makes people comfortable with that data, and so then they don't go back and continue to understand what's going on in the market, right? And I see it a lot of times when I ask about segmentation maps for people, right? So like, how have you drawn up your market? And people, this is not unusual to see people who have not resegmented their market in 5 years, 7 years. And I'm like, so you're telling me that your market is the exact same as it was 5, 6, 7 years ago?
Probably unlikely.
And then it's absurd when you put it like that, but that's the way they're operating with their data, and so then that data is useless.
Yeah, it's I think we don't know the answer, but people need to have an answer. So
They
sometimes
want
it's okay
certainty.
yeah,
Yes.
sometimes it's okay to say I don't know. I think this is what it is, and then that's sort of like the testing. Can you
I
afford to
don't know a
take a
lot.
chance? I don't. Yeah, I'm not afraid to say I don't. I don't know. Let me find out for you, rather than just giving the answer. But I don't know. Ticketing is tough. I bought tickets for the Warped Tour in Orlando, and right when they went on sale. And then it turned out I couldn't go. The Warped Tour was sold out, and I got half of my money back. And I was lucky to even get that. It's like, how is it sold out, but now you can't get your money back if you're, so something's fishy there. And now they're putting tickets out for next year. And I'm like, I'm not going to, you crazy? You think I'm going to pay for your ticket now? I'll wait till the last second. I could get them for a third of the price.
Hashtag pays to wait.
It does, but then there's also the time when it doesn't. So it's like I think it always pays to wait. I don't have tickets for Duke yet. They're now hovering around 500 get in. They were over 1,000 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. So I'm curious to ask you this, because I was talking to, and this is a podcast that I will release here in the coming days along with yours, with Eric Fuller recently. And I asked him this, I was like, well, how many times have you really paid above face value when you're waiting till the last minute to buy something? And he was like, it's probably less than a handful of times. I know I could name both times that I've paid over face value. So how many times has pays to wait not worked out for you?
A few times. I bought, actually, the Gators played in here in Miami, and I waited, and it went down, and I think it's still going to go down, and then it went up. I thought we could have gotten in for like 130, and it ended up costing us 200. But I think you take the chance. I mean, I think it's worth taking the chance. There's no show. I've been at the Hard Rock here in Hollywood. I get into shows that are sold out for $50, $100, sometimes free. People just have extra tickets. The upside of this digital ticketing is I could literally stand outside of the venue and click a button and get my ticket, whereas you wouldn't have gotten in your car to go to the venue without the ticket before. Very few people would go and say, hey, I'm going to scalp. Now, there's not a lot of people scalping, so now you're dependent on what's online, and just common sense says if I'm selling for X amount of dollars and someone else has a comparable seat that's lower, we got to keep going lower. Yeah. Until it sells.
It's a race to the bottom.
It's not as easy to do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a definite race to the bottom.
So my friend who wanted to buy Rush tickets, I'm like, I promise you, 9 months from now, you will get a ticket at face value or less for what you're looking for a good seat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, like Taylor Swift, is an example of someone maybe you can't do that, and that price just never dropped.
But that may be the only time that ever happens.
I know, you're right.
You never know.
Crazy.
I mean, but the pays to wait phenomenon is very real.
So how do you prevent that if you're trying to sell tickets?
Yeah, incentives, right? I mean, there's the incentives structure has gotten skewed, and so the incentives are for people to wait. Right. So, and it's only gotten more dramatic in most cases since COVID, because before, like if you looked at the ticket sales data, you'd see that there was like a real spike at the start, and then you'd see that there was like a big lull in the middle, and then about 72 hours before a show, there'd be another big spike.
And that's also resale too. That's not just for.
Well, it was like it was kind of across the board.
Yeah.
Because if there's excitement, it's any kind of product launch, right? It's 80% of the action happens before you launch it and at launch, right? And then 20% or less happens afterwards. So like that week or so, those few days before the game, that's kind of like you're having a second crack at launching. In the middle, there's not a lot of marketing to support a lot of these things. And if there is, that means the thing probably didn't sell very well at the start.
Right. And sometimes that middle is like 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, 12 months in some cases. Even longer. Like, because like the Foo Fighters are playing at Nats Park next year with the Queens of the Stone Age, and those things went on sale in September. The show's in August. That's 11 months. Right. So there's a huge lull in the middle, right? How are you going to sustain the support for marketing that? It's hard.
It's like
But so it's
I'll buy
incentives.
Tortuga tickets. I go every year and I buy them in advance when they go on sale. And I know that if I waited, I probably can get them cheaper. But there's something about buying direct and having it in my hand and knowing I don't have to worry about going through that and hassling. So for that,
Well, if it
I'm
seems like a
okay to do.
reasonable, the value is correct for you. Like
Yeah.
if the value makes sense to you, then it's totally fine. This goes back to the pays to wait thing though, which is what does the person that's buying the ticket consider to be valuable? And so you have to market and sell to that person's value, not what I consider valuable. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and that's just the case. So again, this goes back to the immeasurable data and the utility of the data that's available. It's like, so if you don't know your market and you don't know your customer and you don't know your fan base, right, then you're going to have a hard time understanding what do they think is valuable. So what's kind of incentives and what kind of opportunities can I create to get people to buy earlier? So then you're going to push things
But don't
deeper and deeper. And the longer those seats sit fallow and empty, the more likely in people's mind, the perception of value goes down.
yeah.
And then you're going to have to start discounting. And we know that discounts are for dummies.
But
Discounts destroy your brand.
how don't you think that there's a certain segment of the buyer who's uneducated, anxious, impatient, and then there's others. So if I said, of course it pays to wait, but these people don't want to, so they buy that ticket at X amount, and now it's like real estate. We have these comps, but oh well, this sold for that much,
Well, I think you got to be
and then
careful
other people would be like,
with that data because that can probably lead you to a false sense of of who your fan is, right? Because I think what happens a lot of times, and I think this drives, like, we're back to the physical tickets versus the digital tickets. This belief in having the personalized marketing, which is like, oh my God, I'm going to know everything about every fan. And I go, do you need to know that? And the answer is no, not really. And then the second part about that is like, oh, because you're trying to do personalized, or you're like making all of your decisions based on like these hardcore fans, is that limiting your ability to reach people who maybe only go once or twice a year, or maybe just want to test something out? And the answer is definitely yes. So you have to be very careful with these things.
yeah, there's a lot of gimmicks out there. The latest one I see is that happens sometimes. I put something in my cart, then I leave it and I X out, and now all of a sudden I get an email saying, "Hey, you left something in your cart." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Well, if you say, "Hey, you left something in your cart, here's 15%," that's what I'm waiting for. So,
Yeah,
has anyone ever
I keep
bought?
getting
Has anyone ever
those.
bought when you said you left it in your cart without an action, without an incentive? I'm like, yeah, I know I left it in the cart. I didn't want to buy it at the time. What are the
Yeah,
odds I just forgot about it?
yeah. Well, or you could. I mean, it's not a bad idea because it's like you could have just been like you had to jump on a
Yeah,
podcast,
sure.
you know, but like, yeah. But
But
then
give
the thing is
incentive.
like,
Give
are you
incentive.
gonna? Yeah, well, and I would say that even if you did that, like, oh, hey, look, what was it? I was getting it for Bluntstones, the boots, because I bought a pair of I was looking for, or Birkenstocks, because my son wanted a pair of Birkenstocks with the shearling in them, and I was looking at the things, and like I just got distracted, and so I get hit with those all the time. So the better way, instead of going, well, here's a 15% coupon, is like going, listen, if you had these in your cart, you like them, here's in the, buy them right now, and we'll also throw in a t-shirt or something, right? So you want to add
But
value,
isn't
you
that
don't want to
funny
cut the
math? I
price.
mean, what's the difference between that and the discount? You're losing. One's a
Well,
loss leader
perceptionally,
somewhere.
the
Yeah,
perception of it
perception.
is,
Right. Sure.
which is
Perception of it.
extremely important when it comes to brand, because most of the brand thing is intangible, right? It's almost all intangibles.
Well,
And
what's
so
the
that goes back to
difference?
the ticket, right? Which is like the if your whole mindset around offering digital tickets or physical tickets is just about you and the data you can receive, and a lot of these things, you're missing out on the intangible value that's
Sure.
provided by having somebody have that ticket, right? Having, using that ticket as a bookmark, so that every time they look at it, they go, oh my God, I remember I went to the All-Star game in Seattle in 2000, and friggin' Cal Ripken was the third baseman, and A-Rod went over and he grabbed him and he moved him over to shortstop, and it
Yeah,
was
that was a
like,
great moment.
yeah. right? And I remember that, and where I was like going, I've got my Pearl Jam ticket from when they played at the Nassau Coliseum in 2003, and they did Bush Leaguer, and the fans in Long Island booed them. It's amazing, right? Those are things you can't measure, right? But those extend that halo effect for decades now, because those are both like freaking old. I am old.
Are you happy with your Pearl Jam mystery bag?
I am happy with my bag. I got
There's
a
a lot of mixed
basketball,
feelings.
some t-shirts. I got a whole bunch of great stuff.
I got to tell you something. I had a conversation with Pearl Jam before I even really, while I was still working at my other job after I started Ticket Time Machine. And then I sent them samples, and then I never heard from them. And they did the actual crappy Ticketmaster commemorative tickets, and they still do that now. And I'm like, dude, we can create something really cool for your fans. And I can't hear back from them. It's crazy to me because their fans are rabid, and they'll buy. I mean, the stuff that these fans buy, these little circle things. And my friend buys 8 skate decks. You have any skate decks?
I do not have a skate deck. No.
But what do you have that just sells out? Is there something that you like at Pearl Jam that sells out?
I have my sweatshirt on right now.
Yeah, I know.
The hoodie, man. I love the hoodie.
And isn't that genius? The mystery bag. People thought they were. It's like, yeah, we're just selling you whatever we couldn't sell on site.
Right, exactly.
It's great.
I don't care. It's amazing.
No, what do you care? It's great.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the big thing from here is that pay attention to the data, but the data should only be a guide. Would that be fair? It's not immutable. It has a shorter shelf life than we would imagine. And think about the ticket as a enhancement of the fan experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
But isn't that the same? Like everything, there's no playbook for anything. So even if it's a sales or you should use all of that as a guideline, but understand that there's a lot of other variables that can that are you should ignore the playbook sometimes and say, you know what, that doesn't make any sense this time.
Well, I think that goes back to your immeasurable data and the way you make the decisions, because I think one of the dangers is like you use the playbook and the playbook ends up becoming handcuffs. And you can't make any decisions that are against the playbook. When the truth of it is that like the playbook might be useful, but the thing is like you still got to go through and at least spend a little bit of time making sure that the playbook still works, right? It's like a football coach that never changes the way that they call plays, and they never update the way they do things, right? And that would be, I think, like, well, you're a Florida guy, not a Florida State guy, but like Jimbo Fisher did a really great job at FSU, and then when he went to Texas A&M, he had really struggled to update his coaching philosophy. Whereas, like, I'm an Alabama guy, and Nick Saban was constantly innovating and changing. And I think that's the way you have to think about your fan experiences. Like, you want to be Nick Saban, not Jimbo Fisher.
What do you think about the Commanders going for 2 last night?
I don't even know. I'd never even watched the NFL.
Oh, you don't watch the NFL?
I watched the Alabama game. I know that we won.
That was a tough.
We won the Iron Bowl.
That was closer than it should have been. Is Alabama going to beat Georgia in the SEC?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Do they deserve a playoff spot if they lose?
Yes, absolutely. You've come to the wrong podcast if you expect any Alabama slander.
No slander. I just think if they lose, I think they might be out. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you never know. But Matt Wolff, where can people find you on the internet? I know you do. Do you still do your thing on LinkedIn where you help people connect and find things? Yeah,
so that's I appreciate you mentioning that. So we have a group. It's called Open to Work and Looking. If you're looking for work, if you're hiring, if you know someone who needs, we're over 4,000 people now in this group, and just great resources. People posting jobs daily, weekly. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll share the link, or you can just find it on Open to Work. You can look at my feed; it'll be on there. But I'm about as accessible a person as you'll ever meet. LinkedIn, email, and just if you need to get in touch with me, get in touch with me. Happy to help if I can, answer any questions. We all need a lot of help to get where we need to go, and I'm one of those people who firmly believes that we should do it just because it's the right thing to do if we can, but also you never know if it'll come back and help you. So tickettimemachine.com. We're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, TikTok.
Everywhere.
not that active on some of those things, but LinkedIn is my number one. And it's good and it's bad, but it's I still enjoy it. I'm on there probably more than I need to be, but I think it's just that one click. It could be that 1 second. It's a lot about timing. And that's the same with the data we talk about, the timing of, are you at this event looking up at someone, or, did you bump into someone who was wearing something or saw something or said something to you? So I think, I don't want to call it luck, but it's the luck and opportunity and preparation and all of that, right?
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah. Something like that. Matt
Wolff, thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, always great to chat. Happy holidays to everyone. And that's it. I'm hoping for a great 2026.
Let me know what you thought of my conversation with Matt by sending me an email. My name, Dave, at davewakeman.com. Check out the Talking Tickets newsletter. You can find it at talkingtickets.substack.com. Make sure you check out my website. It's www.davewakeman.com. We're 45 minutes into the podcast, so I know that you love it. So do me a favor and rate, review, and share the podcast. Rating and reviewing will help people find the podcast, so it'll help us keep growing, get great guests. And sharing it is going to help let people know about conversations like this one with Matt Wolff and some of the other ones that we've had this year, and that we're going to have going forward on next year. And it's also gives me that little dopamine hit that keeps me going. As always, I want to thank you so much for listening. I couldn't do it without you, and I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.